The galaxy had learned to fear Neptune. Not just the planet itself with its endless raging storms, but the empire that ruled it. The Neptune Dominion. Their fleet was massive, storm-crowned and merciless, sweeping across star systems and leaving nothing but ash and silence in its wake. Terran colonies on the outer edges whispered stories of planets surrendered, entire civilizations erased. It was a shadow that stretched to the very heart of human space. Cale stared at the holomap flickering in the cockpit of his fighter, his jaw tight. Neptune's storm-crowned Armada was advancing, slicing through the gas giant's violent clouds like a black blade. He felt the familiar ache of fear in his chest, but he pushed it down. Fear was dangerous. It could freeze a pilot mid-flight, turn courage into hesitation. He was not about to let fear win. Not today. Are you sure we're ready for this? Mira's voice came through the comms. Calm, steady, but with a hint of worry. Her ship floated beside his, sleek and nimble, the silver paint reflecting the stormlight from Neptune's atmosphere. Mira's hands moved over her controls with a dancer's grace, her eyes scanning the storm for any hint of the Dominion's patrols. Kyle took a deep breath. We don't have a choice, Mira. They're coming for Earth and the colonies. If we falter, everything we've built, everything people love, will be crushed under their boots. His voice was firm, but not without the raw edge of emotion. He wasn't lying to her. The weight of the moment pressed down on them both. Mira nodded, gripping the controls tighter. She understood the stakes perfectly. Humanity had survived against impossible odds before, but the Neptune Dominion was different. They didn't just conquer, they erased, leaving nothing but silence where life had been. And yet, despite all that, two small Earthborn fighters were going to face them head-on. The warning sirens blared across the fleet's outer perimeter. Sensors screamed with incoming contact, ships descending into Neptune's storms, moving with precise, ruthless formation. Cale's fingers tightened around the joystick. Every instinct screamed to retreat, but retreat was not an option. Not for him, not for Mira, not for anyone who still believed in freedom. Stick close, Cale ordered. We move fast, we hit hard, and we disappear. Make them chase ghosts. Make them fear humans. Mira's lips curved in a slight defiant smile. I was hoping you'd say that. Let's remind them why humans are dangerous. Lightning split the atmosphere around Neptune, illuminating the black forms of massive cruisers and destroyers. The storm raged, a chaotic ballet of electricity and wind, reflecting the chaos that was about to unfold. Each ship was a fortress, bristling with weapons capable of destroying entire cities in seconds. And yet Cale and Mira were unshaken. Two small fighters against a storm-crowned armada. The odds should have been impossible. Kyle's mind flashed back to Earth, to the small moments that had defined him. Nights spent stargazing with his little sister, dreaming of adventure, the first time he flew solo in a simulator, feeling the thrill of control and freedom, the promises he had made to friends and family to protect them no matter the cost. All of that had led to this moment, this one chance to strike a blow for humanity. Mira, too, carried her own memories. Her parents, lost to a Dominion raid years ago, had taught her resilience. She remembered their words. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is what you do when fear stands in your path. Those words burned in her chest as she maneuvered through Neptune's roiling storms, her ship's shields shimmering under the relentless strikes of charged lightning. The first plasma bolts from the Dominion fleet streaked across the void, red and blue streaks of death that could tear a ship apart in seconds. Cale's reflexes were instantaneous, weaving through the fire with calculated precision. Mira mirrored him perfectly, their movements synchronized like two halves of a single mind. Despite the chaos, a strange calm settled over Cale. This was what he had trained for, what he had lived for. The storm around them mirrored the storm inside them. Fear, anger, determination, and hope, all twisting together into one single drive. Survive and fight back. Ready? Cale whispered into the comms, not needing an answer. Mira's nod was enough. Two Earthborn aces against a galaxy-spanning empire. It was madness, maybe even suicide, but it was also defiance. And defiance was something humans understood better than any other species. As the first wave of Dominion fighters broke through the clouds, Kale pushed the throttle forward. The storm roared, Neptune's lightning lit the void, and humanity's defiance streaked across the galaxy, fast and unyielding. They were coming for Neptune's heart, and nothing, not storms, not empires, not fear, would stop them. Kale's fighter surged forward, cutting through Neptune's raging storms like a silver arrow. The gas giant's winds tore at his ship, lightning arcing dangerously close, illuminating the void in jagged, violent flashes. Mira followed, her ship dancing through the chaos, precise and steady, each move a perfect counter to Kale's bold maneuvers. The Dominion fleet was massive, every ship bristling with weapons that could obliterate their tiny fighters in seconds. They had numbers, technology, and experience. And yet Kale and Mira were unafraid. Fear had no place in their minds now. Only action, only the drive to survive and strike back. Squadrons on our left, Mira shouted, her voice cutting through the static of the comms. Kale's eyes flicked to the warning lights. Dominion fighters swarmed like angry hornets, plasma beams streaking through the storm. "I see them," he said, his grip tightening. "We hit fast, hard, then vanish before they can react." They weaved through the first wave, each move almost inhuman. Kale flipped his fighter upside down, diving through a storm of charged particles. Mira mirrored him, sliding past a Dominion destroyer's turrets, her shields taking minor hits. Every dodge, every counterattack was a message. Humans were unpredictable, dangerous, impossible to cage. One of the Dominion cruisers opened fire, a massive beam of energy aimed straight at Kale. His ship shuddered as the blast grazed his hull. Sparks flew, alarms blaring. "Got it," Kale yelled, twisting the controls to escape. Mira was right behind him, blasting a salvo of missiles that shredded the cruiser's targeting array. For a moment, the storm seemed to hesitate. The Dominion pilots were trained to expect precision, obedience, order. Not chaos, not defiance, not two small fighters cutting through their ranks with the speed of a hurricane. Kale felt a spark of satisfaction. Even in the face of near-impossible odds, humans could fight back. "Target the lead frigate," Kale ordered, voice firm but calm. "Take it down before more reinforcements arrive." Mira locked her weapons onto the target. Her hands moved with the confidence of someone who had done this countless times in simulations. But this was real. Lives were at stake. She fired, the missiles streaking across the storm, guided by both instinct and skill. The frigate erupted into flames, spinning out of control, tearing through the clouds of Neptune's storm like a dying comet. Kale smiled grimly. "One down. Keep moving. Don't give them a chance to pin us." The battle intensified. Dominion squadrons tried to flank them, lasers cutting through the void, plasma bombs tearing holes in Neptune's clouds. Each strike tested their skills and their nerves. Kale felt his heart pound, adrenaline sharpening every sense. Mira's presence beside him was steadying, a reminder that he was not alone in this. They were a team, two halves of a force the galaxy had not expected. Then came the first real test. A Dominion interceptor, faster than any fighter they had faced, surged from the shadows of a lightning storm. Its pilot's movements were precise, deadly, and trained to kill. Kale and Mira locked eyes through the comms. "We stick together." "No splitting up," Kale said. "Agreed. Let's make it count." The interceptor dove at Kale. He twisted, fired, and barely missed its plasma barrage. Mira moved in perfect harmony, striking the interceptor's weak point. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash, scattering debris across the stormy sky. Both pilots exhaled, tension easing for just a moment before the next wave arrived. Kyle's mind drifted briefly to Earth. He thought of the cities, the forests, the oceans, places worth fighting for. Every strike he made against the Dominion was for those memories, for the people who believed in humanity even when the galaxy seemed to have abandoned them. Mira, too, carried her own motivations, loss, pain, and a burning desire to honor those who had been destroyed by the Dominion. The storm raged around them, each lightning strike a reminder of the chaos they were stepping into. Yet in that chaos, Kale and Mira thrived. They moved as one, striking with precision, vanishing before the Dominion could counterattack. Every destroyed ship was a small victory, every dodged blast a testament to their skill and determination. Finally, Kale slowed for just a second, peering through the storm. The Armada was massive, but cracks were forming. Ships were damaged, formations broken, chaos creeping in where there had once been order. "They're starting to hesitate," Kyle said, awe in his voice. "They don't expect humans to fight like this." Mira's voice was soft but filled with fire. "Then let's make them remember it." Together they dove deeper into the maelstrom, two Earthborn aces cutting through Neptune's storm-crowned fleet, fearless, defiant, unstoppable. The storm around Neptune raged with a ferocity that matched the chaos of battle. Kyle and Mira had been cutting through the Dominion fleet like lightning through the clouds, their tiny fighters darting between enormous warships, striking and disappearing with impossible speed. Yet for all their skill, the Dominion was relentless, their numbers overwhelming, and the storm showed no mercy. A warning blared in Kale's cockpit. "Incoming torpedo port side." He twisted violently, narrowly avoiding a bright streak of plasma that would have torn his fighter apart. Mira followed instantly, matching his movements with perfect precision. Together, they danced through death, adrenaline making their reflexes almost superhuman. But then came a crack in their defense. Jarrow, one of their wingmates, a veteran pilot who had flown countless missions with them, was caught off guard. His ship was hit squarely by a Dominion missile, shattering the left wing and sending him spinning toward Neptune's stormy atmosphere. His voice crackled over the comms, strained but defiant. "Kyle." "Mira, tell them. Tell Earth. We won't bow." His transmission cut off, leaving only static and the distant roar of the storm. Mira's hands clenched the controls so tightly her knuckles turned white. She gritted her teeth, fury and grief rising like a wildfire inside her. Kale's jaw tightened, his chest heavy with guilt and rage. They had survived wave after wave, yet now one of their own had been taken. "We can't stop," Kyle said, his voice low but filled with iron resolve. "We honor him by fighting harder. We finish this." Mira nodded, her eyes burning behind her visor. Her heart ached, but she pushed it down, channeling her sorrow into focus. "Let's carve through them," she whispered. "For Jarrow, for everyone they've hurt." The Dominion fighters closed in again, more cautious now, but their intent was clear. Eliminate the humans. Kale's fighter spun through the storm, dodging energy blasts that would have vaporized any lesser pilot. He fired missiles that tore through enemy hulls, each explosion lighting up Neptune's swirling clouds. Mira mirrored him, her lasers cutting precise deadly paths through the Armada. Despite their rage, a heavy weight pressed down on both of them. Every ship destroyed, every enemy pilot taken out was a small victory. But the memory of Jarrow's final words lingered. "We won't bow." Those words became their mantra. Their fury became sharper, their movements faster, almost instinctual. They were no longer just pilots. They were two humans carrying the weight of all those who had fallen. A massive Dominion cruiser loomed ahead, shields pulsing with deadly energy. It was a fortress compared to their fighters, bristling with weaponry capable of annihilating dozens of ships in a single strike. Kale's eyes narrowed. "We hit it together. Precision, speed, no mistakes." Mira nodded, a silent acknowledgement that they were partners in this fight, bound by courage and shared loss. They dove toward the cruiser, dodging turrets and plasma barrages, weaving through a storm of death. Kale launched a missile into the cruiser's shield seam. Sparks and fire exploded across the hull. Mira followed instantly, her disruptor beams piercing weak points in the armor. The cruiser shuddered violently, alarms blaring, systems failing. For a brief moment, Kale felt a spark of hope. Two humans against a massive fleet, and they were winning small battles. But then another warning blared. This time closer, sharper. Dominion reinforcements were closing in, their numbers greater than before. The storm-crowned Armada was far from defeated, and each strike brought a new wave of danger. Kale's hands moved almost automatically, weaving through debris and energy blasts. Mira's movements were equally precise, her eyes fixed on the next target. Every destroyed ship was another step toward survival, but the emotional toll weighed heavily. Grief, fear, and determination twisted together in their minds. Each explosion in the storm felt both like victory and a reminder of what they had lost. Through it all, Kale and Mira never faltered. Even as Neptune's storms tore at their shields, even as the Dominion closed in, they fought with everything they had. Their defiance became a beacon of hope, not just for themselves but for Earth, for the colonies, and for all who dared to believe that humanity could stand against impossible odds. And as another wave of enemy fighters fell to their relentless attack, Kale whispered under his breath, almost to himself, "We'll survive. For Jaro, for everyone, they won't break us." Mira's voice came through the comms, soft but fierce. "No one breaks humans. Not now, not ever." In the eye of Neptune's storm, amidst fire, debris, and the roar of war, two Earthborn aces carved their path, defiant, unyielding, and unstoppable, even in the face of their first devastating loss. The deeper Kale and Mira pushed into Neptune's storm-crowned fleet, the heavier the air, or rather the energy of the storm, seemed to press against them. The smaller fighters of the Dominion scattered around them, some destroyed, others fleeing in disarray. But ahead loomed the core of the Armada, the dread Sovereign. Its immense hull glinted dimly through the storm clouds, shields rippling with an almost alive energy. The battleship was the heart of Neptune's might, and destroying it could turn the tide of the battle, or get them killed trying. Kale's fingers tightened around his controls. He had never seen a ship this massive in real life. He had seen the schematics, simulations, even old war archives, but nothing compared to the reality of the dread Sovereign looming in front of him like a dark moon. He swallowed hard and glanced at Mira, who was scanning the warship with calm. "For Sci-Fi's, we go in together," Kale said, his voice firm despite the tension crackling between them like the storm around Neptune. Mira nodded. Together. Her hands moved over her controls, her mind calculating the approach, predicting every turret, every plasma cannon, every defensive sweep the dread Sovereign could make. Years of training, instinct, and courage had prepared her for this. But this was beyond anything they had faced. The storm around them raged violently, lightning crackling over the surface of Neptune, illuminating the enormity of the battleship. Dominion fighters screamed toward them, small and fast, trying to intercept. Kale and Mira wove through the swarm, dodging fire that could tear their fighters apart in an instant. Every move was dangerous, every decision could mean death. But the humans refused to falter. Kale fired his first salvo, targeting a seam in the dread Sovereign's outer shields. Sparks and plasma arcs danced across its hull, but the ship barely flinched. "It's tougher than I thought," Kale muttered, his jaw tight, frustration and determination battling inside him. "Keep at it," Mira replied, her voice calm but resolute. "We'll find a weak point. We have to." They dove deeper, skimming past turrets, flipping through the storm like twin streaks of silver. Mira launched her ion disruptors, which hit a vulnerable power junction on the battleship's hull. The dread Sovereign shuddered, lights flickering along its massive frame. Kale's missiles followed instantly, striking the same point. The ship groaned under the combined assault. Around them, the storm seemed to respond to the violence. Lightning arcs struck close enough to rattle their hulls, thunder booming across the void like the roar of some ancient god. Kale felt adrenaline pulse through his veins, every heartbeat synchronized with the chaos around them. Mira's presence beside him was a steadying force, her calm precision guiding him through the fury of battle. "Direct hit. Keep it going," Kale shouted, feeling a spark of hope amid the destruction. The dread Sovereign's shields flickered, systems failing in sections, alarms blaring across the ship. Every second they maintained their assault was a victory against the seemingly invincible Armada. Mira's eyes glimmered with a mix of fear and determination. It's weakening. We can do this. She fired another precise volley at the exposed junction, hitting the ship's main energy core. The Dread Sovereign shuddered violently, its massive frame quivering under the assault. For a moment, Kale allowed himself a thought he had tried to suppress. Maybe, just maybe, they could actually win this. Maybe two humans, defiant and fearless, could strike a blow against an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for decades. But the storm was unforgiving, and the Dominion was relentless. Fighters swarmed back in, trying to protect their flagship. Plasma fire streaked through the void, and debris from damaged ships spun dangerously close to Kale and Mira. Every second was a test of skill, courage, and instinct. One wrong move, one stray blast, and it would all be over. Kale took a deep breath, steadying himself. We have to finish it, all in. No holding back. Mira nodded, her hands steady on her controls. For Earth. For everyone we lost. Let's end this. With synchronized precision, they struck again. Missiles and disruptors hitting the weakened junction simultaneously. Sparks, explosions, and energy flares illuminated the stormy void. And the Dread Sovereign groaned as systems failed catastrophically. The mighty battleship, once the heart of Neptune's Armada, now wobbled under the assault of two fearless Earthborn pilots. Kale and Mira hovered for a brief second, adrenaline flooding their senses, hearts pounding in unison. They had reached the heart of the enemy, carved chaos through the fleet, and proven, if only to themselves, that humans could fight back even against impossible odds. The storm around Neptune howled, as if acknowledging their defiance. And in that moment, Kale and Mira knew they were no longer just fighters. They were symbols of courage, determination, and the unyielding human spirit. The remnants of Neptune's storm-crowned fleet swirled around Kale and Mira, a chaotic dance of fire, smoke, and debris. The Dread Sovereign groaned, sparks flying from its damaged hull, but the Dominion had not yet surrendered. Reinforcements poured in from the outer rings of Neptune, more ships than Kale had ever seen in one place. The storm itself seemed to sense the danger, whipping violently around them, lightning streaking so close it made their shields flare red. Kale's fighter shuddered under the strain. Warning lights flashed furiously as his shields dipped into the critical zone. Mira's cockpit glowed with the same warnings, the hull taking multiple hits. They had carved chaos through the fleet, but victory was far from certain. Every movement, every decision could be their last. Kale gritted his teeth. We can't hold much longer. We need to... He stopped abruptly as another torpedo streaked past, narrowly missing his ship and exploding against a nearby Dominion frigate. Debris rained down, shaking the cockpit violently. Mira's voice was steady but strained. Kyle, your shields. They're failing faster than I can patch them. You have to get out of here. Kyle shook his head, determination flashing in his eyes. I'm not leaving. Not until we finish this. Not after Jarro. Not after everything. Mira's hands trembled slightly as she gripped her controls. She knew he was right. They had already lost too much. Jarro sacrificed the countless Terran lives at risk. Everything demanded they keep fighting. Yet she also knew the truth. The storm, the fleet, the relentless Dominion forces, they could break them. Any second could be the last. Another wave of Dominion fighters closed in, faster and more aggressive than before. Kale and Mira twisted through them, narrowly dodging blasts that would have torn them apart. Their movements were almost instinctual, each turn and roll perfectly synchronized. They were a single unit in a battle against overwhelming odds, their trust in each other absolute. But the price of defiance became painfully clear. Mira's left wing was hit by a plasma strike, alarms blaring. Sparks erupted inside her cockpit, and she struggled to maintain control. Kale saw the hit and dove closer, dodging enemy fire as he guided her through evasive maneuvers. Hold on, Mira. Don't let go. I'm not giving up. Mira shouted back, her voice raw with emotion. Fear, anger, and determination all intertwined. She gritted her teeth and pushed her ship harder. weaving through explosions, dodging debris, and targeting vulnerable points on the Dominion fighters. The storm around Neptune reached a new intensity, as if reflecting their struggle. Lightning arcs split the sky, thunder rolling like the growl of some ancient beast. Kale and Mira's ships glimmered in the chaos, tiny yet defiant sparks of humanity in a sea of destruction. Kale, we need to strike the remaining cruisers together. Coordinated, precision, timing. Mira's voice cut through the static, calm amid the chaos. Kale nodded, though his body ached from constant strain. Right, we end this. Now. They darted forward, two Earthborn aces against the heart of the remaining fleet. Missiles, lasers, and disruptor beams found their marks with terrifying efficiency. Ships exploded, hulls torn apart, debris spinning violently through the storm. Every hit felt like justice, every destroyed ship a statement. Humans would not bow, humans would not break. But the cost was real. Each near-death, each scrape, each shudder of their fighters reminded them that courage came with sacrifice. Mira winced as another blast grazed her shields, sparks filling her cockpit. Kale's systems flashed red, hull breaches warning of imminent danger. They were two against a galaxy-spanning fleet, and yet they fought with everything they had, amid the chaos. Kale's mind flickered to Earth. The cities, the oceans, the forests, everything they loved. Everything worth protecting. Mira thought of the colonies, families who had been forced to flee or perish under Dominion rule. Their fury became more than a desire to survive. It became a need to protect, a burning determination that refused to be snuffed out. Almost there, Kyle muttered, teeth clenched, eyes locked on the last remaining cruisers. We pushed through. One final strike. Mira's hands moved like lightning, every weapon firing, every evasive maneuver calculated to perfection. The remaining cruisers faltered under their relentless assault, systems failing, shields cracking. The fleet was breaking, scattering, chaos overtaking order. Finally, they took a brief pause, hovering amidst the storm. Both ships were battered, shields failing, systems screaming. Yet they had survived another wave. They had carved through Neptune's storm-crowned fleet, leaving chaos in their wake. Kale exhaled heavily. We're alive, but we can't stop now. They'll regroup if we hesitate. Mira nodded, wiping a streak of soot from her visor. We keep moving. For Yarrow, for everyone. We finish this no matter the cost. In that moment, amidst wreckage, fire, and Neptune's raging storms, they understood the price of defiance. Survival was not enough. It demanded courage, sacrifice, and unyielding determination. And Kale and Mira had both in abundance. Kale and Mira hovered at the edge of Neptune's storm. Battered, exhausted, but unbroken. Their fighters bore the scars of countless near-death encounters. Hulls scorched, shields flickering dangerously, and systems screaming warnings that they could no longer ignore. Yet the dread sovereign still floated before them, massive and almost invincible, the heart of the storm-crowned Armada. Its hull glimmered with lethal energy, bristling with turrets ready to annihilate anything in sight. Kale's hands gripped the controls until his knuckles turned white. This is it, he muttered, his voice low but resolute. Everything we've done, it all comes down to this one strike. One shot, one chance to end this. Mira's eyes met his through the comms, calm and fierce. We do it together. No mistakes. For everyone we lost. For Earth. A wave of Dominion fighters surged forward, desperate to defend their flagship. Kale and Mira weaved through them, dodging plasma streams and exploding debris, movements instinctual after hours of relentless battle. Their training, instinct, and courage guided them like a single entity. Every shot they fired struck with deadly precision, tearing through shields and hulls of the smaller ships, clearing a path to the dread sovereign. Almost there, Kale muttered, teeth clenched as he lined up his missile targeting system on a critical junction in the ship's armor. Mira mirrored his approach, her disruptor beams locked on a secondary weak point identified earlier. They had studied the ship during the battle, memorizing every vulnerability, every flicker of weakness. Now it was time to act. The storm around Neptune screamed in fury, as if aware of the final confrontation. Lightning cracked across the gas giant, illuminating the Dread Sovereign's massive hull. Plasma beams fired from the battleship, but Kale and Mira moved faster, dodging with a grace born of desperation and determination. Kale's missile streaked forward, hitting the exact seam in the hull they had targeted. Sparks and fire erupted, but the ship did not falter. Mira's disruptor struck simultaneously, piercing the energy field and overloading the internal systems. The Dread Sovereign groaned under the assault, shields flickering, turrets misfiring, alarms screaming in mechanical panic. "We've got it," Kale shouted over the comms, adrenaline making his voice raw with emotion. "Keep firing!" "We finish this now." Mira's hands moved like lightning, firing additional ion charges into the ship's failing reactors. The Dread Sovereign shuddered violently, sparks flying across its immense frame. The massive battleship, once untouchable, now trembled under the combined assault of two human pilots. Then came the moment of truth. Kale took a deep breath, eyes narrowing as he lined up the final strike. A synchronized missile and disruptor hit aimed directly at the ship's core. "For Earth. For everyone," he yelled.
Mira fired at the same instant.
Energy collided with energy. The Dread Sovereign's core began to rupture, a deep, ominous hum vibrating through the storm. Lights flickered violently across the hull and cracks of energy tore across its surface. The massive ship shuddered, leaning precariously in Neptune's swirling storms. Lightning struck nearby, illuminating the battlefield in blinding brilliance. The Dread Sovereign erupted in a violent explosion, fragments of its hull and energy cascading into the stormy void. Smaller Dominion ships scattered in panic, some destroyed by debris, others retreating as their command ship was obliterated. Kyle and Mira hovered for a moment, adrenaline pounding, hearts racing. The storm around them seemed to calm slightly, as if acknowledging the impossible had been achieved. They had struck the heart of the Neptune Dominion's fleet, shattered its command, and carved chaos into a seemingly invincible armada. Kale's voice was hoarse, but there was a quiet triumph in it. "It's over, for now. We did it, Mira." Mira's hands trembled slightly as she steadied her controls, tears streaking her soot-marked face. We actually did it. We're still alive, and they'll remember us. They'll remember Earth." The storm roared one last time, then seemed to recede slightly, leaving two battered, exhausted human pilots floating amidst the wreckage of a shattered fleet. Every scar on their ships, every warning light, every near-death experience was a reminder of the cost, but also a reminder of courage, determination, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. Kale looked at Mira, voice soft. "We lost friends. We were scared, but we made them pay. We showed them humans don't bow. Not ever." Mira nodded, a small, exhausted smile breaking through. "And we'll keep showing them, Kale. As long as we can fly, we'll keep fighting. For Earth. For all of us." Amid the stormy void of Neptune, amidst burning debris and fleeing enemies, Kyle and Mira drifted side by side, two Earthborn aces, victorious against impossible odds. Their hearts still raced, their hands still gripped controls, but for the first time in hours they allowed themselves to feel something beyond survival. Hope. The Neptune Dominion had been shattered. Humanity had survived, and two defiant pilots had carved their names into the galaxy itself. The storm over Neptune finally began to fade. Smoke and fire drifted through the planet's raging clouds, remnants of the shattered fleet spinning into the void. Kale and Mira hovered among the wreckage, their fighters battered, hulls scarred, and systems dangerously close to failure. Yet amidst the chaos and exhaustion, a quiet sense of triumph settled between them. They had done the impossible. Kale exhaled slowly, the tension finally easing from his shoulders. "We actually did it," he murmured, his voice hoarse but filled with awe. "The Dread Sovereign, it's gone." Mira nodded, though her eyes reflected both relief and sorrow. "We won, Kale. But at what cost?" Her voice trembled slightly as she looked at the debris around them. Friends lost, ships destroyed, and countless lives hanging in the balance. The victory was theirs, but the weight of survival was heavy. They drifted silently for a few moments, the storm around them quieting to a distant roar. The silence was almost sacred, a moment to breathe and feel the gravity of what they had accomplished. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible. 2 Earthborn aces, battered but unbroken, cutting through Neptune's storm-crowned Armada, leaving chaos and defiance in their wake. Cale's thoughts turned to Earth. He imagined the people waiting, unaware of how close humanity had come to annihilation. He thought of the children who would grow up in a universe where humans were no longer just prey, but a force to be reckoned with. Mira's sacrifice and determination, Jaro's bravery and their own unyielding courage, everything had led to this moment. Humanity had survived, not because the odds were in their favor, but because they refused to bow. Mira spoke softly, breaking the silence. "Do you think they'll remember us?" Her hand shook slightly on her controls, still gripping the fighter's console. "Will anyone know that Earth fought back?" Cale looked at her, determination and pride shining in his eyes. "They'll remember. Not just the Dominion, but everyone in the galaxy. Humans don't give up. We fight even when it seems impossible, and we'll make sure our story is heard." The storm clouds above Neptune parted slightly, revealing flashes of distant stars. The wreckage of the fleet glimmered in the faint light, a testament to both destruction and defiance. Cale and Mira drifted side by side, 2 small ships against a galaxy of enemies, yet their courage had proven greater than any armada. They began the slow journey back to Earth. Every light year passed was a reminder of the battle they had survived, and the lives they were determined to protect. Cale glanced at Mira, seeing exhaustion, pride, and a fierce fire that had not been extinguished despite the trials. "We're coming home," he said quietly, almost to himself. Mira smiled faintly, tears streaking her soot-marked face. "And when we do, we make sure the galaxy knows who humans are." News of their victory spread quickly once they returned to Terran space. The transmissions of 2 pilots carving chaos through Neptune's unstoppable fleet became legend. People across colonies cheered, children listened with wide eyes, and soldiers found renewed courage in the story of Cale and Mira, the humans who had faced an empire and emerged victorious. Yet for Cale and Mira, it was not fame that mattered. It was the knowledge that their defiance had changed the galaxy, that Earth and its colonies would survive another day. It was the memory of friends lost and the promise that their sacrifice would not be forgotten. Cale often thought of Yarrow and of every pilot who had given everything in the fight. Each victory, each step forward was in honor of those who could no longer fight. Mira understood this too, carrying the weight of every life lost, but letting it fuel her determination rather than crush her spirit. In the quiet moments, they would sit together on the deck of their transport ships, looking out at the stars and remember the storm over Neptune. The chaos, the fear, the near-death experiences, it all became part of who they were, and part of the story they would tell for the rest of their lives. "Do you think it will ever end?" Mira asked one night, voice soft as the stars reflected in her eyes. Kyle shook his head. "No. The galaxy will always have storms, always have enemies. But it doesn't matter. Humans will always rise. We fight, we survive, and we make our mark." Mira smiled, a tired but genuine smile. "Then let's keep rising." And so their legend was born. 2 Earthborn aces who had carved ruin through Neptune's storm-crowned Armada, who had faced impossible odds and survived, who had reminded the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. Stories of their courage, their defiance, and their hearts spread across the stars, becoming a beacon of hope for all who faced tyranny and oppression. Cale and Mira had fought, they had survived, and they had won. The Neptune Dominion had been shattered, but more importantly, humanity had proven itself unbreakable. The stars were theirs to defend, and their story would echo for generations. In the end, Amidst the light of distant suns and the quiet of a galaxy slowly recovering from war, two humans had become more than pilots. They had become legends,